Hey folks, Jonathan here. Alright, been a little while since I've done an update. Just wanted to show you a few things. This being one of them. This is an oscillating engine, and this is actually a very early, possibly my oldest, and maybe even my rarest engine. There's not too many at all around. I know there's one in Henry Ford Museum, and there's probably a few in England you'll see, but I don't think there's too many here in the United States. It's just not a very popular engine nowadays, although in the 1840s, 1850s, up into the 60s, it was a very, very popular engine. They just had a lot of issues because this is a trunnion mount cylinder. Steam goes in one side, comes out the other side, and this whole cylinder oscillates, which is pivots, because there's no wrist pin. There's no crosshead, nothing, just, the rod, that's it. Now the rod would normally hook, of course, to the crankshaft, and the pin's missing, which is not a problem there. And we can build that. And the cylinder don't seem to look too bad. Pulled the head off, not bad. It's not too bad in the steam chest. There's some linkage that was missing, and I just am not sure exactly how it works. I will know before it's over with. I do know that the packing nut's missing, which is, I know, again, not an issue. And what we've got, I'm going to pull this cover off and show you, which I'll show you here in a minute. Works off of eccentric, and an eccentric strap with a rod, just like all the other steam engines. The problem is this is going to be rocking all the time. So how does this work? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I'm almost 100% sure that this shaft that's running in this thing right here is not correct. And one of the reasons is there's a keyway where the packing nut is, and that would be a big no-no anyway. So I think maybe this is the wrong rod, but let me see if I can get this cover off. As you can see, this is totally uncleaned. And as was when we got it. So steam admission, it's weird. We're going to clean it up and get in there, because I can see a slot down here, which is kind of well, it's not kind of odd, it's really odd. And maybe, unless that's the entrance for the steam to come in, and then when this moves, of course, it would send it one way or the other, and it would send it through the exhaust, which is possibly on this side. So maybe this is the pressurized steam side, and that's why the slot's open. We'll know everything for sure, but we've got to figure out how that eccentric operates this valve, which I'm sure it would be with a lever that would come down. But my problem is what's going to happen when this thing starts rocking. It's probably going to add to the eccentric, the length of how far it goes. So a lot of learning going to happen, and maybe this is the right rod, and as you can see, it's pulled out. So that's probably what it is this is the correct rod, but somebody has pulled it way out. And this can't hook directly to this without a lever of some sort, because it would just, try to break it. It wouldn't work. So I have no idea how long the lever needs to be or anything. So we will try to figure all of that out. And as you can see, it's just full of whatever was in that garage that the mice or whatever had taken in there. Let me pull the head off, and I'll show you what cylinder looks like in the piston. Okay, so of course this is stuck. Okay, one thing about it is the rod. I think it has been replaced with a stainless rod, and I have no idea what year that would have been. I'm pretty sure that's stainless and not chrome plated. It's kind of a weird way to do this. It's two-piece, and then the nut goes on, and it brings it together. It looks like the farther you tighten it, the tighter it gets. So that's pretty weird, and it may be Babbitt probably inside of that, and then you would oil it. Now, an engine this early wouldn't have any kind of oilers on it. All it would have would be holes just like this to use a can. I've noticed that on the really early engines that they only took an oil can to oil it. Alright, so there's our cylinder, and it actually looks really, really good. A lot of grease filled up and oil, and boy, that's that old grease smell. If you ever worked on a Model T Ford that had been sitting for years and years, that's the smell you get from it. So I don't think we've got a piston or cylinder issue, and it looks like it's about maybe 5-inch bore and maybe a 8-inch stroke is my guess. So it's not tiny, but it's not, you know, the biggest thing, but it don't have to be long because it does not have a crosshead. So, and you can see the square bolts that's on this thing. Really nice cast iron base. It's in really good shape. It bolts together here. I've found no cracks or breaks on it. This pulley's cracked and broke, but I'm sure it's probably been messed with over the years. And, we can find something to put on there, maybe something with an S-spoke flywheel or something like that. Have no idea what's original and what's not original on this thing, but, and you know, it could be built probably even up into the 70s maybe, but it could be as early as the 1850s. And I don't mean 1970s, I mean 1870s. So anyway, have no idea the brand, probably will never know, which is, you know, fine. You got to come to that agreement with yourself when you buy something that there's a good chance that you'll never know who built it, just because of the manufacturers. There were so many of them out there. So actually we had a company up until 1856 in Fayetteville, North Carolina that built these engines, and there was a big company in Wilmington, North Carolina that built these engines. So although they were very, very common, and if you do a search on like newspaper.com, you realize real quick that they actually did make a lot of these engines. They just were all destroyed. You know, it was a lot cheaper to take something like this and take a big hammer to it and remelt it than it was to take, you know, iron ore and process new material. So there was a lot of foundries out there that was advertising wanted, you know, scrap cast iron, and so, you know, nothing about recycling's new. And that's that. Let me show you something else. Okay, the wife's truck, I did get this running and on the road, and actually drove it to the cruise-in this past, let me see, last Monday. And I took this, Jordan and Graydon took the El Camino, which is Graydon's car anyway, and he's 9 years old now, so he's getting closer to being time to drive it. And of course my wife took the SSR. I didn't take the Roadster this time, but this truck's doing good. It's got the 5-speed in it and everything, and the engine runs great, and we're going to do a little more work on it. But you know, I've done videos on this about 5 years ago, and I stopped on it and I just jumped back on it and knocked it out, and I didn't do any videos, but it's running and riding. All right, a Hamilton cordless engine. I am not completely 100% at a standstill on it, but I'm getting close to being at one. We'll be waiting on the rod and the piston, but got some other stuff to do before then, but we're getting close. So I had to make this arm, and I made that out of 3/4 plate. I've still got to finish the welding and then take it off and grind it. We got to clean all the linkage and paint it, get all that done. See, I've got some new gears for the, I say new gears, but they're new old stock matching set of gears for the governor. So we know that this runs a 1-to-1 gear ratio, and instead of trying to find a gear with the same number of teeth, the same pitch as the one that's on there, and matching it up, it's just as easy to grab 2 of them, new old stock. Of course, you know, you don't get them, you don't buy these for something in particular that fits anything, and the reason I don't do that is they usually, you know, demand a lot more money. So if you just find a set that's new old stock that somebody maybe picked up from the military, or you know, from a surplus sale or something like that, then you can get them at a deal. So I bought them cheap, but it's a match set. The holes are way too big. There's no keyways, but it don't matter because, you know, I can bush them down to any size I want, but their outside diameter is right. So of course we got the pulley made. It was missing. I actually got it freed up. That was surprising too, that we got it moving, but I still think I'm going to have to replace the main shaft in it because it's set against a building and rusted real bad at the bottom. And let me see, I think that's about it on this one. and I'll show you what we're working on now. Alright folks, so it brings us to this frick engine that I'm actually working on right now. We've got the valves about cleaned up and ready. I ran into an issue with one of our valves, which is the exhaust valves. So the two top are intake, the lower are exhaust. And the reason I'm trying to get this cleaned up and back together, I put the head on, the cylinder's clean, engine's not stuck. I actually cleaned the rod up with a DA sander, and it's not going to have to be replaced, so it should hold the packing good. Took the tag off because I was trying to see the color under it. I think this is supposed to be black and part of it's supposed to be red. We're going to figure that out for sure, or try to. And the marks on the valves, which is just right here. It's just in front of my fingernail there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a mark on the valve and a mark on the steam chest. And that's where we want them lined up at, so we can get the wrist plate in the center, and then we can do our measurement for our rods and go ahead and do all of our rods. So that's something I'm working on now, and because they were all missing, of course. So okay, here's the exhaust valve, and you can see this one's in pretty good shape. Just got to clean it up and get it ready to go back in. This one here we've got an issue with. So I think the casting was hollow somehow, and I don't know what happened, but it cracked at one time on this side and on this side, and it must have gotten water in it and froze and opened it up, because this thing leaked out water for 5 minutes yesterday. Just drip, drip, drip. So it was full of water, and you can see it bowed up a little bit here. So I think what we're going to do, this is 3 3/4 OD. I've got a piece of 4-inch solid, so I think what we're going to do is machine it and just make this part out of steel. So that's the plan, is to make that, and then we'll replace it. It's not that big of a deal to machine that, and you know, it's going to be easier than doing a casting. So the bearing for the rear of this one's missing, for the crank and the eccentric, and then the two rods that come up to the valve gear from the eccentric that actually latch right here. And I've got pictures of everything of what it should look like, so it shouldn't be too bad to make. Everything else we've got, except of course it's missing some governor parts that we have to build. But we're going to try to get this one in a condition to get set up on the foundation. And like I said, this one's here, and it's going to be here facing it, but these one's a left and one's a right hand engine, so the valve gear will be, you know, facing each other. The flywheels will be facing each other. We won't have quite a big of a foundation on this side, because the bearing goes all the way to the floor, or all the way to the deck where the engine mounts. And I'm going to probably pour the flywheel pit, the base, and the base for the outboard bearing all in one pour concrete, so we won't be doing any brickwork on it. So I think that'll be coming up here really soon, and try to get it in here and get it set up and start getting it to where, you know, we can make it run. And this one here, I'm hoping, I don't know how long it'll be. You know, I've got the parts to plumb it in. The valve's done. Really making the two pieces for the bearing, finishing up this arm here, welding it all up, grinding it, making it look, painting it, making it look like it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like a cast iron piece instead of steel. And then if we get the piston and rod back, we can slide them in, and then we can make this thing run. And it'll be nice. This one is probably the worst condition of any of them that I've gotten when it comes to coreless, for sure. So we're going to find out, you know, if it runs here before too long. I mean, it's moving right along. So, all right, that's our update. And I'll do some videos on, you know, maybe I'm going to do some more on those coreless engines, how it works, and some other stuff. And then we'll do some more also on this new engine I've got that's, like I said, a pretty old and rare engine. So, all right, appreciate everybody watching. Till next time. Bye.